how are you gonna create art if you're like mentally like not there, you know?
Nowadays, there's so much to take into consideration, both as a manager, as a label, and as an artist. There's so many different platforms, right? You have to cater to every platform, and it has to be specifically tailored for Instagram or TikTok or Snapchat or Twitter or, your music videos, your visual. There's so much to think about.
I think we should just talk about this because I think people make others feel like so bad for you feel like, oh man, I haven't made it yet. And then you run into like an artist like flipping burgers and you're like, oh damn, what? Like you don't show this in your stories.
I just need everyone to chill with their egos. That's mainly, and I'll get into that. No, it's just 'cause egos.
Who specifically thought it needs to chill with their ego? Name names.
Shut up and sit down.
All right, everybody, welcome to Shik Shak, Shook One's first episode of 2025. Let's go, baby! Dino, what's up? What's up? What's up?
I'm so jealous of you because I would never sound cool doing an intro like that.
I don't sound cool doing this now, so don't worry about it. Let's go.
Now you can't lower the voice. No, I love that. I love that. Welcome back, everyone. We are buzzing. I know I don't sound as excited as Danny, but trust me, I am. We are joined by two incredible people. We have Rita L'Oujdia, artist, producer, and my beautiful friend, who is going to be talking about what it's like being an independent artist. And we're also joined by the awesome Tara El Mendelet, who is a project and artist manager at Middle Beast. And he was formerly a label and artist partnership manager at TikTok Mina. Can we get a woo for them, please?
Let's go, let's go. What's up, y'all? What's up, what's up?
Hey.
Good to be here.
One thing we love to do before we actually get into the conversation, and we're going to be looking at what it's like, working with a manager and having a label behind you versus what it is to be an independent artist. But all I really care about right now is who are you listening to and if there are any artists that we should have on our radar.
Oh.
Besides yourself, Rita.
Yeah. So
Go ahead.
actually, I'm listening to two songs a lot at the moment. One is Congolese sous BBL by Theodora, which is she's a French artist, and her song is so fucking good. It's just she's just talking about getting a BBL, and and it's so like unapologetic, and Danny, you would love this song so much. I swear. It's so
Have
good.
a song about BBL.
Yeah.
We're bringing BPLs to Afikra, baby.
We're bringing them back.
What about you, Tara? Are you listening to any BBL related music?
No BBLs to me, but no, I've been listening to a lot of Naika actually lately. I just met her last week here in Beirut, and I've obviously been a fan like since 4 years ago. I think it was this really viral cover on TikTok or reimagination of a song on TikTok. I forgot which one it was, but 1+1 right now is on repeat in this household for sure. And Marina Satsi, actually a Greek artist who was in Eurovision. I've been obsessed with her ever since she was on Eurovision. I saw her live in Paris, which was amazing. I've been listening to her latest album. It's amazing. I highly suggest it to everyone. And another actually Spanish artist called Judalyn, who's really, really, really cool. Spanish artist, super, super cool. I don't know if any of you have heard of her at all.
I've loved her last album. I love this woman.
So good,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
So
so
good.
nice. I love it.
I love that. I'll add it to the list. We're
Yeah.
very multicultural here anyway, so we're here for that.
Not
Exactly.
at all.
You got it all.
Any songs, or actually name one song you hate, and then we can get started.
Oh my god.
Oof. Oh my God. Okay.
You can't get people in trouble, Dina. You're gonna ruin business opportunities. Like, you can't have that happen, man.
Hey,
Does
okay,
it have
fine.
to be new,
Tell me
though?
a song. No,
Like
of course
recent,
not. It
okay.
can be like anything, any song from 1920 if you want.
I have an maybe
Uh,
unpopular one,
Okay, what is it?
but I can't stand Shape of You.
Oh, I'm in love with the shape
Yeah,
of
it
you.
just
Ed
it
Sheeran.
pisses me off. It pisses me off. It's so
I think it's fine.
lazy.
It was overplayed. It was
It's
overplayed.
these same
Really.
like 3 chords, and it just pisses me off. Yeah. I don't like a lazy
See, I'm like
song.
this with. I'm gonna be kind of a Debbie Downer, but I'm kind of like this with on and off with "Happy" by Pharrell Williams. It
Oh.
makes, yeah, sometimes it makes me miserable. Like, I please stop. But then sometimes I like it, I enjoy it, because when they overplay songs so much, and it's like, why is it still on the radio? Why?
Yeah. You know what, guys? You pass to the next round. I'm going to let you continue because I really agree with both of you. So well done.
Love it. Okay, great. I passed the test.
Well, both of you, for real, thank you for taking the time to join us on this episode. We're excited to have y'all. As Dina kind of mentioned, we want to just bring the audience in, get a peek behind the curtain of what it's like to be an artist in these times right now, and like all the
It's
different
tough
things that
out here.
come
I'm
with
gonna
it.
say that.
Yeah, it's rough. It's rough, and I'm sure, like, Tata, from your end, it's rough. Even if you've got a label behind you, Rita, I know it's super tough if you're independent and you're just doing everything on your own. What are some of the different dynamics and challenges that you're all approaching, both as an artist and from the, sort of the management side of things, with this new landscape, with this, especially with just like the constant need for social media and like all, what are some of the things that y'all are thinking through as you're looking to create, as you're looking to different artists?
Yeah, Rita, go ahead, please.
Thank you. I think like one of the theme that keeps coming back, and I feel like it wasn't much part of a conversation before, is like mental tiredness. And I feel like we're overworked. Like, I mean, artists before were, but they didn't have that like pressure of being totally 100% all the time, 24 hours a day, productive, and on like fields that have almost nothing to do with like creating art. And this like pressure just doesn't stop, and it keeps on going, and that's been really tough. I think that's like a new challenge, because how are you gonna create art if you're like mentally like not there, if you're like burnt out, you're tired, you're over pressured. So there's finding that balance and not like avoiding to reach a point where making music is so dreadful that you start to hate it. I think that's very important. It's a bit dangerous as well.
I agree. I mean, it definitely, even from a label standpoint. I mean, even artists that are with labels, they're dealing with a lot more of the creative stuff, right? But I think nowadays there's so much to take into consideration, both as a manager, as a label, and as an artist. There's so many different platforms, right? You have to cater to every platform, and it has to be specifically tailored for Instagram or TikTok or Snapchat or Twitter or, your music videos, your visual. There's so much to think about. But I feel like working one by one and like really, it doesn't have to be that deep at the end of the day. Like for me, for artists and social media, I'm like, just be yourself. Like, obviously a lot of things have to be, your Instagram has to be well curated. Like, there's certain places to do certain things, right? I feel like on TikTok, for example, you could be a bit more playful. You could show more of who you are and your personality and your art, and how you're creating your art. On Instagram, it's a bit more polished. It's a bit more, it's just really kind of deconstructing everything and tackling everything one by one, and figuring out who you are visually, figuring out who you are sonically. And then once, I feel like this is the basis for everything. Once you know your image and you know your sound, everything will very simply like trickle after that. It's just sometimes it's overwhelming because you have so many different things to cater to. But once you have those two things, I feel like solidified, then everything will just trickle easily. But obviously with a label, it's easier because you have someone helping you on the strategy. And even because some artists are more strategic than others, and that's fine. Like, some artists have kind of both sides of their brains activated, where they know exactly how they want to market their music, they know exactly who they are. And some others need help, and that's where sometimes a label comes in. And at the end of the day, it's always a collaborative effort. Like, if one party doesn't do their job, things won't really roll through. So it's really about balancing roles and responsibilities.
Yeah. And let's strip it back. Like, if we're explaining this to like a 5-year-old, Rita, when you're an independent artist, like for example, your latest EP, Heart Under Blitz, you produced that yourself, you mixed that yourself, you wrote that yourself, you did so much. Literally, that is you on a plate. What is it to be an independent artist? Like, take me through your process. And then Tarek, can you tell me, like, from your perspective, I know you mentioned it briefly, but what is it that you do and help the artist unlock?
Um, well, first of all, like being independent, I think like there's a misconception to what it means. It doesn't necessarily mean like doing everything yourself. It just like from what I've learned at least, like it's you're not signed to a major label, so you could be signed to an independent label and be an independent artist. You could have a huge team of people and be an independent artist. So like I think I've, being an extreme person, I've stripped that to its core, and I'm like as independent as like even in the creative process, but it doesn't have to be like that. You don't have to suffer like that. But so
Suffer.
yeah, in my like case, I'm also like independently writing and producing and everything. So when I make a song, most of the times it's just me, and then but I'm trying to like collaborate more and everything, and also like realizing that you can stay independent, you can still have creative input, but you need a team, you need a like a group of people that get you and like can help you, and and then create together. So and that's still being independent. So yeah, I think there's so many like different types of independent artists, and everyone's process is like probably super super different. But I think it's good to note that there's also like a little bit of a trend around that. So like people would be more prone to like signing to independent labels just so they could retain that like independent indie artist. But it's really debatable whether you are or not at the end of the day. I feel like, I don't know, you know?
Yeah.
But
No, I
but
get
yeah.
you. No, it's interesting, because like because for me, I'm an artist manager, right? But I also work for a record label. So I have two different lenses sometimes, or two different sunglasses or glasses to wear. So obviously on the label side, I'm a product manager. So whenever we sign an artist, my job is really to help kind of help the A&R team, help the general team in general, kind of help develop the artist, because I feel like nowadays labels sometimes lack artist development. Like people just want, obviously we want people who have a fan base, who have somewhat of numbers or anything, but we're not scared to kind of put our eggs in a basket where we know there's some development to do, and it paid off. Like with a lot of artists it did. Like I'll give you an example. Like for example, Asayil, who's a incredible Saudi Arabian rapper, songwriter, all of it. She, like, we started with her from nothing, right? Like from the ground up. And like if you look at it in it was what, like a year and a half or two since she won X Perform and was signed. She's at a different level now, but that's because we put in so much work, both me and the A&R team. Shout out to obviously Rawan and Lina as well, her product manager. I support on that project. I'm super proud to support on it because I mean she's incredible. But they really put in the work in terms of like figuring out who she is sonically. So working with different producers, different writers, different working with different music video directors until we really honed in and found her image, right? So we really worked on exposing her to different types of sounds, showing her music from from older days, or really this musical education, this visual education. It's really about helping also educate the artists that you're working with, both as a manager and a label, on knowing the people, the artists that preceded them, and for them to be like able to expand their audio and visual palette to understand who they are and what they want to be. So I think development is extremely important nowadays. Obviously, it's good to have your numbers and your fan base and everything. I want an artist to be proactive and really trying to grow their fan base. But at the end of the day, as a quote unquote professional, my job is to help better them and advance them, not just throw money at something that's already working. How can I make that work better? You know what I mean?
It's super interesting, man, because like I think that I appreciate both of you clarifying those things of like what does independent actually mean and what do labels actually do, because I think there is this general misconception of what both of those things are. And the thing that I keep hearing from artists or from just the general sort of discourse on independent versus being signed, right, is this idea that, that's it. Labels are extinct. You don't need labels anymore. You can just upload something to SoundCloud. You can upload something to YouTube. You can get all these different production tools on your own, do things on your own. I mean, I'm curious, thought it from your perspective, what you make of that conversation. Obviously, Middle Beast isn't like a Sony Music or Universal or whatever. Like but you're still a big powerhouse in the region. And like, Rita, even for you, like, Do you feel like that's the case? Do you feel like, yo, I'm good? Like if a label comes, cool. If not, I'm good. You know what I mean? Like I'm curious what y'all make of that conversation that's kind of happening.
Yeah, for me specifically, obviously me working at at a label, I feel like we do things differently. Like we really approach, because at the end of the day, I mean, we're only what, like a four now, almost 5 year old label, or maybe even less. So we're very new, right? So we want to grow with the artists that we're working with. So yani, they know for a fact that we're gonna give our 110% because we want to win just as much as they do. You know what I mean? So I think it's about, as an artist, you want to know if your label is as hungry to make you the greatest artist of all time or not. Like that's how I see it. Because at the end of the day, with artists that sign with us, whenever we get on a call, they feel like they have a whole team that's supporting them. You know, they have the product manager, they have their streaming manager who's pitching them to DSPs left and right. There's multiple kind of screws in the machine that have, you know, their roles in the artist team from the label side. So I think it's really about gauging whether or not, again, the label wants it as bad as you do, like you making it and becoming the biggest artist ever, or whatever it is. But then to a certain extent, you could do everything yourself, but then say you get a great moment, and like sometimes that's hard to manage. Like if your song is massively going viral, it can get confusing. Like, what do I focus on? What do I do? So usually a label knows how to navigate that. So then it really depends on what you're looking for as an artist. But that's from my perspective.
That makes a lot of sense. Like, I agree with what you're saying. It makes so much sense. I think from like an artist perspective, um, honestly, like I've been signed to a label, an independent label, for like a year, and before that and after that, I was independent. And so I'm so grateful for like the times that I was signed and the times that I've been independent, because like just like by myself, basically, I'm not signed. Because like you learn so much, and I feel like today there's this huge opportunity to get a huge like head start without a deal, and you get to learn as much as you can on like yourself, on your art, on the industry, on deals. Like I feel like now we have access to so much more knowledge, so that the day you get signed, if you get signed, you know what you're getting into, like, or you know how to like arm yourself and surround yourself with people who can, you know, protect you and everything, which I feel like probably was not really the case before. Like, I don't know. I feel like everybody like really romanticizes like being fully independent, but I think the independent artists that have really like made it to like a, you know, worldwide success, we can like count them on our like one hand, I think. And you know, the reality is like it takes a village, and it takes a lot of money, and it takes people who have like the experience, and I think today, yeah, you can make it as like, you can have a huge success being independent and creating your own label, for example. Like I've seen so many more artists do that today, especially in our region. And I think that's really encouraging. Like everyone's just opening their own labels and, you know, building their own team. But then when you like, you know, you research a little, you see that, but they did sign a distribution deal with Universal, and they did sign that, you know, with like that major and everything. 100%. So I think it's about like balancing. I think, you know, labels aren't necessarily evil, but it's good that today we have that like that opportunity to brace ourselves and to why are you laughing?
I'm laughing because Todd is on the call working for a label, and you're like, labels aren't necessarily evil, and I'm like, bro.
Sorry.
No, I get it. I'm just being funny. I get it.
It's coming out.
It's so true. It's
No,
so
no,
true.
oh my God, no, it's totally fine.
No, it's not rude at all. That's just me.
I also love how real Rita is, because she's also coming from a perspective of someone who's actually been doing this for quite a while. And I'm not knocking anyone and saying people want quick success, but I think sometimes people think, oh, if I have a label, I'm going to be the next Ahmed Diab. But I met Rita maybe
And then
4
they get
years
comfortable.
ago. Yes, exactly. And also, as you said, Rita, they miss the part where they get to see who they are and actually what works. They just think, oh, I've got a label, I'm now going to be famous. And that's really not how it works.
Definitely.
Yeah. No, it's so true, because also like artists sometimes don't realize what an advance means. Like if you're getting, I don't know, $250,000 advance, you owe that money. You're not gonna see any money after that. So a lot of artists don't understand the concept that you have this money for the foreseeable future because you're not gonna recoup $250,000 unless your label is getting ancillary rights or brand rights or some percentage on your live shows. Because let's be real, streaming, no money
Yeah.
unless it's like billions and millions of streams. But yeah, like essentially you owe someone money. Not technically, but like they gave you this amount for you to make back, and then you start making money again. So yeah, it's also about being smart with your finances. That's so important.
Yeah.
I remember when I was like 17 and I got my first letter in the post being like, you're now eligible for a credit card. Thank God my mum slapped me and was like, absolutely not. Because I would have been like,
By the way, we don't condone parental violence of their children. Just
Oh, man, we're Arab. You know what that means. Come on, Danny.
listen,
but it's
everything said on this podcast is not a reflection of how afikra feels.
And speak, I just want to also just on the point that you both made, because it's such a good point. Can we talk about red flags or even signs to look for? So whether that's as an artist, what you should look at when you're signing with a label, and same for labels, what you guys look at before working with an artist, and any issues that could come up, because it's really cool for people to hear from that side as well.
I'll take the second part. I guess Rita take the first part.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I guess there could be so many red flags, but the ones that I've personally lived and that I've learned from, and maybe I was just so naive, but I feel like if you feel pressured to sign something, it's so obvious, but like, or if somebody, because like I was given deals to sign in 24 hours and I was like, well, sign this by tomorrow so we can start working. And at the time you have, and I think it's a common thought, it's you're like, well, I gotta do it, because then what if you're afraid of negotiating because you think negotiating will mean the deal goes away. Which is like, if somebody tells you, oh, you want a lawyer? Okay, we don't want to sign you anymore, then, you know, f you, because you don't want to get signed to these people. Sorry, huh? You don't want to get signed to these people. So, but sometimes I think, like, if you're made to feel like you're afraid to ask for more time, you're afraid to ask for just like your rights, like, no, I need a lawyer, I need this, I need that. That's a red flag.
100%. 100%. I mean, from our side, I think the question was like what we look for when signing an artist, right?
Yeah, and any like red flags for you from your perspective too, because there's red flags for you guys as well.
Oh, yeah. I've experienced quite a lot of red flags, let me tell you. No, but no, seriously. So for me, like, or I feel like as a label, I feel like what a label would look for, obviously, the artist has to be super hungry, right? Has to be making a lot of music. I think to a certain extent, if we're being real, have some, numbers, because just numbers help, right? But like have some sort of fan base, have sort of an idea of what you're doing. Really, I just would want an artist that has a 5-year plan at least, knows what they're doing musically, like has the identity. Obviously, we're here to help at the end of the day, right? But to have these little elements set in stone, the hunger, the music, the identity, the fan base, a bit of it. Like it doesn't have to be super developed, right? And to know that this person will work hard, because there has been situations, either in or out of what I do, where artists sign and then they get comfortable and they're not working hard enough, they don't answer promptly, things drag. Like these are red flags. Like this is where, like, if we're in the middle of a deal and you can't get on like a meeting on time, yeah, it's kind of weird, right? Like certain things, certain behaviors, like just negligence, these are more red flags, I think, for labels. They're scared of artists that aren't as proactive, or don't share much, or like it's very important to be transparent with your label, and vice versa, from both sides, obviously, so that the relationship is smooth and everyone has their role and everything is complementary.
I'm curious what y'all think from like a fan perspective, who may not be in the weeds of knowing the ins and outs of the industry or what's happening, or may have a very cursory knowledge of all this, right?
Mm-hmm.
what do both of you feel like is the biggest either misconception or misunderstanding of what you're doing, like in not as a performer or not necessarily as like a in management, but just like the industry itself, right? Like,
Your job is so fun.
I love the impression.
Okay.
all right, you talk to a lot of white American women, clearly, is what.
No, but like, no, انه واو شغلك كتير حلو انه يا شو بتتسلوا you have so much fun انه oh my I'm like yeah no it is but no Rita I'd love to hear from you actually.
Oh, well, actually, one of the reasons why I'm so glad that like you guys are doing this episode and we're doing it together, because it's so important to have that conversation. I feel like there's a misconception around the fact that people think artists are living their best lives. And we are when we are making music, but the rest of the time, especially if you're independent, is not, it's not you make TikTok and you perform and then that's it. Like, I think reaching that point is so amazing, but it's not that. It's a lot of work. It's like you need a proper fan base, you need an income, like, and something that really pisses me off is when people don't talk about like the other side. So sometimes, for example, you see like a really successful artist and they won't tell you that they have like a part-time job or like, a barista job on the side and stuff like that. And I think we should just talk about this, because I think people make others feel like so bad for, you feel like, oh man, I haven't made it yet. And then you run into like an artist like flipping burgers and you're like, oh damn, what? Like, you don't show this in your stories. And it's like, well, I don't know. I feel like just misconception that you just live off music is, I think we need to be more open and honest about it. And yes, you can, but it takes a long way to go and to get to that point. And if there are ways to get to that point, I think we should share them with each other. I think we should like talk about it and be like, well, have you tried this? Have you just thought about this? Have you thought about this? Da 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 da. And like, or like, well, I get my money from my parents. Just say so. And just like, I feel like it would be nice to just say so. Call it what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's
That's
so many
real.
of these artists, right? Like you think they're struggling or whatever, but they're not, and then vice versa. Because it really depends on what artists show you. But I feel like from my perspective, people think I'm just on the phone or on my laptop, and I'm like, nah, it's not that easy, like it's fun. Obviously, being an artist manager, it's nice, and when it's what you love to do, it's great, right? But it comes with a lot of stress because you're handling someone else's career. Like that's a big responsibility. You're making decisions on their behalf sometimes. Obviously, most of the time it's together, but there's some decisions you have to make yourselves, whether it's in negotiations for label deals, brand deals, all of that. You have to take into consideration you really need the best for your artist, but you also need to feed yourself as a manager. Obviously, I'm blessed enough to work at a label, right? But there's some managers I know that are doing it, that are purely just doing that, right? They need to feed themselves too, but then they have to make sure that their artist is getting their fair share as well. So it's kind of this like, it's like a sira or like a fight all the time. Like you really have to fight for your artist all the time, and it's exhausting sometimes. But as a manager, that's your job and that's what you signed up for, right? But it's just not a walk in the park. Obviously, the concerts are fun, the events are fun. It's nice to like work towards something like a tour or a show and see it come to fruition. That's like the most satisfying part of the job, honestly, is seeing the artist on stage in their full element. And just like, oh, great. It was all worth it,
Yeah, Rita mentioned that before, because I was talking to Rita and I was like, you've been performing in so many different festivals and concerts and she looks amazing, she looks so happy, and you even said, Rita, right, like that part you wish you could just stay on stage all day. Does it make it worth it though? Like, when you're like hustling and struggling and doing all the things that you're doing, does that moment on stage make it feel worth it? Be real and honest about that.
Of course. No, honestly, like, or else like we wouldn't like do all of that and go through all of that trouble. Honestly, it is of course so much worth it. The last thing I did, like I just took a flight to like perform 24 hours and came back to my like normal day job, and it's like you're coming off a high and it sucks, but then once you're out there you're like, damn, like the emotions are crazy. And also like, I don't know, social media and all of that, that's amazing, but we forget how like the real thing happens live with like live people and like the connection and the energy that happens like in persons. You can't like equal that to like a share or like a TikTok going viral. Like that doesn't really, you don't feel that, but like living this
Yeah.
and like that's what like I think making music and like living off music and having it as a career is just like living as many moments as possible. And that's really what I want to do. Like performing is amazing and writing but it's also like the writing the songs and that moment in the studio where it clicks and the adventures, because musicians are like funny and weird and like crazy and people like, so the like going on tour with like a band, like all of these like little moments that we don't see because only the artist gets to live, that also makes it so much worth it. Like it's crazy human experience.
And I feel like lately as well, like so many like even from the content I see going viral from artists, it's mostly live content. People are loving these candid moments that are happening between, and even if it's like a 100 people crowd, right? But like seeing this, people are loving, and they love to see these interactions happen between artists and their fans. And this is why I tell artists now is like the time to really like perform all the time live, like as much as you can perform and get content out of that, great, because people are loving to see this like genuine connection between artists and their fans, like all these candid moments, these funny moments that happen, like you see a funny sign someone made you, or and the magic of live is really truly, you can't replicate that. You really can't replicate
Literally.
that. So it's beautiful.
Seeing something live and hearing it is never going to feel the same as putting it on YouTube or streaming service or whatever. And I think it's in our DNA as Arabs and North Africans. There's something about hearing live music and instruments that just
Makes
it's
us
not something we can
instantly like,
describe.
Okay, but on that, I have to ask this question. Since we have a Moroccan artist here and we've got Tariq, I have to ask this. Like, there's obviously a little bit of a divide between North Africa and the rest of the region, right? Like there's gonna be this thing where a lot of North African artists, and Rita, I know you know this, I know you feel this acutely, sometimes feel like you're shut out of the conversation or ignored or what have you, and thought it like from your vantage point, you're trying to manage and you're trying to think through a talent pool of an entire region.
Yeah.
What does that look like from both of your perspectives as an artist and then from the management sort of label side of things? Do you see that play out more acutely? Is it just something that we as fans are kind of observing and it's not that deep? What does that kind of look like from y'all's perspective of how do we bring everybody together? Do we bring everybody, like serving different audiences, all the different things that come with that between North African artists and I guess like Shami artists and Gulf artists, Khaliji artists, all the things?
Yeah, for me especially, I mean, because when I was with TikTok, which was starting 2021, it was when everything, with TikTok, the music industry here started really rising, and you started seeing artists from everywhere, sorry, doing their thing. I started because I had a big job, right? I had to take care of the entire market. So I really had to get educated and like really know the different cultural nuances, which I already knew, but musically, like me working in the States, my first experience was working in the States as an artist manager. So it was completely different. I had no vantage point on the region, right? But then I came and I just was so fascinated how each country had their own thing going on, whether it's, especially North Africa and Morocco, Tunisia and Algeria and Libya and, everyone else, they're all so different, right? And so you really have to sit and listen to every single one. So for me, I did see that disconnect at first. Like Mina was just Khalij, Levant, Egypt. Okay, but hello, Morocco, Algeria, no, what's wrong? So then, I started seeing Moroccans specifically started going viral. So I'm talking like, this is like EM Cousin and a bunch of other artists that were going viral at the same time. And I'm like, finally, let's give them their moment. I started, supporting through the different resources that I had at TikTok. Like khalas, Love at the time, I think by Cousin was going crazy viral, and Moon Love Oho by Yamsi actually. So they were coincidentally happening at the same time. And I'm like, okay, great. This is an opportunity to like bring them to the forefront. Because they're having a crazy moment that's undeniable. Like they're eating up Europe and they're eating up North Africa. Let's get them to the GCC and to the Levant, and then that's what we started doing, right? And it started, and I think since these two moments, and Manal and a bunch of other people, like, and Rita, obviously, a lot started just like boop, 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 boop. And now I'm seeing the integration now. If I could say really the past year, like we're seeing El Grande Toto at the Billboard Awards, we're seeing Distinct, which is in Saudi, we're seeing Moroccans in Saudi more, we're seeing more Tunisian, Algerian, everywhere, right? Like they're starting, it's only starting, right? Because I feel like our industry really in the region started properly like 4 or 5 years ago. I'm saying like the new age, the newer artists, the indie artists, etc.
Yeah, like aside from Rotana and Mazika and like the
And all
traditional sort of
that,
pop
yeah,
artists.
yeah,
Yeah.
with all my respect, obviously, and admiration. But
So nice.
it's very
So nice, Tariq.
it's very early, right? So now we're seeing this kind of mesh, a lot of Egypt Morocco collaborations, and now خلاص كله صار عم بيفوت ببعضه basically, which I love.
Does it feel like that for you, Rita?
It's a bit of a hard question actually, because it's hard to know like the impact on such a huge region, to be honest. But what I've always kind of noticed is that, because I'm Moroccan, and I've always felt like the Moroccan scene was just separate. And I felt like, okay, well, people want to separate us, but that's fine, because even separated, we are doing amazing. And so I've always felt that, I don't know, like I've noticed we're not always part of the conversation, like not a lot of the times at all, but also, and that's fine. I think we shouldn't try to represent like so many countries that it just doesn't make sense. We're so different as well. And I think like MENA, obviously it's a controversial term. It's like, I don't know, like, there's like, there's so many like gray areas to like even just the term and to like our cultures and everything. So I think it's amazing to try to represent everyone, and I think we should try to do that. But also, if sometimes some things are different and some things hit differently and go different ways, I think that's also fine, because I would rather see an industry thrive and be celebrated for what it is than try to get on like some boat and get it like it being changed because people don't understand it, or you know what I mean. So I don't know if that made sense.
Yeah.
It
No,
does
100%.
make
Makes sense. Makes
Rita,
sense.
you have the wisdom of like a 90-year-old woman in a young woman's body. Don't you think the way she speaks is so like, you're not complacent, you're not like blaming anything, you're just, it's very true as well. Like Danny and I always talk about this. We hate the term MENA. We're not really fans of Swana, and also the whole idea of grouping all of us makes no sense, because even the dialect differences and the cultural differences,
There's dialect differences just within Lebanon. Like that's just one country, you know what I mean? Like,
is there anything, this is our final question, that you would love to see different, or like, do you have an idea of what needs to change to help you in your sectors flourish?
Rita, go ahead. I'd love to hear that.
Well, I mean, we've talked about this so many times. Oh yeah, but and it's not really like related to the to the independent artist like conversation. It's more to do with like your first episodes about self-orientalization. I do think like I think it would help if we stopped making parodies of ourselves. I think it would help greatly. It would help if we tried, because I feel like everyone's trying to replicate.
Just say it, Rita. Just say it. We gotta cancel Muhammad Ramadan. Just say it in front of Dina. It's
No
fine.
more candles. No more henna. We don't wear henna every day for no reason. We don't like belly dance at any given occasion. No, but like I think obviously like we've seen how like a very specific scene like the Latin scene has flourished and like exploded everything on its way, like worldwide, like on the US market, in the world, like #1 artist Bad Bunny, like that was crazy to see. And I think our scene is getting really inspired by that, which is amazing. We should be inspired by like celebrating our culture, but also we should like, I don't know, I mean, I followed like how like Latin icons came to rise like in the past 10 years, and I don't think they have made parodies of themselves or tried to change themselves to appeal to an audience that doesn't understand them. They had their audience, and it was so strong that that's what made them like go so big. And I think maybe our focus should be less into pleasing the Western eye and you know, and and making people understand us, but just being like, well, we understand each other so much that you have no other choice than to understand us too. And if you don't, that's fine. Like, you know what I mean? But I feel like we have, because it's such a new industry, we have so many opportunities, and every day I feel like we're like screwing them up. And I'm like, no, like, oh, we could have, you know, like, let's try to do things right. Let's try to think before we do, and not just rush into like a trend and like, and just create like another toxic industry again amongst all of the other ones. Like, I don't know, we can do better. I mean, come on, we're so rich in culture and like, and thoughts, and it's just, we can do so much better. Like, maybe we should chill, think about what we did, and try not to do it again. Yeah.
Someone needs to slap us, like I'll get my mama. Nice little slap.
Oh
Get
my
yourself
God.
painted.
Disclaimer, we did.
Right then.
Here we go.
Sorry, what about you?
Ooh, for me, oh wow. I just need everyone to chill with their egos. That's mainly, and I'll get into that. No, it's just 'cause egos.
Who specifically thought it needs to chill with their ego? Name names.
Tag them.
It's just, no, it's like a lot of people, when they get success and they, you know, astronomical, some people handle it very well. Some other people are like gatekeeping and, you know, ego, and I'm better than you, and you guys are amateurs and whatnot. Not word for word, but like that's what they insinuate, right? And I feel like we need less than that, like, especially even between artists. Like, there's so much beef all the time between different artists, and like especially between like bigger and someone that's upcoming. And it's like, just support each other, man. Like, why are you it's always, you know, sometimes bigger artists or look at like smaller artists like, okay, I'm supporting you, okay, great, but then the second they actually do something to kind of get to the same pedestal, no. Why? You know what I mean? Like, just support each other. Like, if there's no actual like personal like crazy beef where like if someone beat up someone else, then it's about the music, really. It's really just support each other, less ego. Even, you know, this could be applied to artists between each other, or managers between each other, or directors, whatever it is. It's like there's always this like, I don't want this smaller person to become bigger than me. But it's not about that, you know, like it's about growing together. Like it's not, I'm not gonna take you out just because I did something, but no. We need to like learn to kind of pull each other up, essentially. That's kind of the moral of the story for me.
Amen.
Shout out to the
Yeah.
artist fan accounts. Anyway,
I
I'm just saying. Listen,
I-
y'all don't
I-
have to name names. That's what I'm here for. No.
Guys, thank
That's so
you
true.
so much for joining us, honestly. And we say this all the time, but we really mean it. Like, we could sit and talk to you guys for another 7 hours, but you obviously
Maybe,
have
honestly, it's
Literally,
been
yeah.
fun.
We appreciate you both. Go check out all of Rita's music. Go follow everybody on social media. And if you have any questions, comments, feedback about this podcast, send them to Dina. All right, thanks everybody.